tonight. I am expecting some great information tonight concerning our health. Because how many of you know, no matter how much money you have, if you're sick, you can't enjoy it. All right, so we're talking about the importance of being whole, of having health and having wealth. And you can have health, but if you're broke, you can't enjoy health, right? So we want to touch on all aspects of human life. In the book of 3rd John, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, verse 3, excuse me, says that I desire that you be in health and prosper even as your soul prospers. And it shows that this is the will of God. The will of God is for us to prosper financially, is for us to prosper in our bodies and prosper in our soul on all three levels, in our spirit, soul, and body, and to prosper in our relationships. But this is not a relationship seminar, so we're not going to talk about the relationship part. But I'm going to ask you to please do me a favor. I know the general tendency is to sit as far back from the speaker as possible. I don't know what it is. We as human beings, we want to sit as far back from the speaker as possible. So I'm going to ask you to please, could you at least move up closer? We won't bite. Okay, just move up closer and let's leave the back, at least leave the back row empty there. Just come. We won't bite you. Promise, no biting. Hallelujah. We thank you so much. Father, we just thank you for this night. We thank you for all the people that are on their way, that they will have a safe journey here. Lord, we thank you for all the speakers. We thank you for all that will be spoken today, and that our lives will be enriched. Lord, your desire is for us to live in health. Lord, when you sent your son Jesus, that you sent him and he not only taught, but he healed. And the Bible says that he went about doing good, healing all those that were oppressed by the devil. And so we thank you, Lord God, that you're not only interested in our spiritual well-being, but you're interested in our physical well-being and our financial well-being. And we thank you that this is so. By Jesus' name, amen. So we want to first put our hands together, and we want to welcome our first speaker, the speaking about SMART goals. So put our hands together and welcome Cal Royer as she comes to speak with us today. Actually, I didn't do it in the order. Go sit back. I'm supposed to read her bio. I said, after she get up here, wait a minute, I didn't do that right. My apologies. My apologies. Just bear with me there for a moment. Okay, so who is this lady, Cal Royer, that you just clapped for? First of all, she's a valued member of Faith is Our Victory in Our Ministry. She's one of our leaders and is part of the leadership team and help us in our work in the community. Carol embarked on her entrepreneurial journey back in 1998 when she founded her first company, Creative Information Technology Training. Her early success laid the foundation for a remarkable career. In recent times, Carol has garnered recognition for outstanding contributions to Buddy Services, an elderly adult companionship company under her leadership. Buddy Services was nominated for a Technological Innovation Award for the educational game, a Senior Safe. This game teaches seniors how to detect fraud, highlighting her dedication to enhancing all the lives of seniors. So again, put your hands together for Cal Royer.
Thank you so much, Pastor Gary. By the way, we did not win that award. We were nominated, but did not win. The results came out yesterday, so just have to keep working harder at that. And also just want to thank Pastor Gary for the opportunity to speak tonight and to share with you. I do not take that for granted. I know we have very many great speakers here who can teach about anything, but so I thank you so much for the opportunity. So tonight we're going to talk about SMART goals. And if you were here a couple of weeks ago when we announced it, SMART is an acronym for S for specific, it must be measurable, and we're talking about goals. It must be achievable. R, it must be relevant, and T, it must be timely. So we're going to go over some of those today, and I'm hoping that we have at least 5 minutes at the end to do a quick workshop and see if you can develop your own SMART goals. Now, has anybody here has done goals before and wasn't successful in the goals? Maybe you said, I want to lose weight and, didn't quite attain it, or you wanted to, exercise more, didn't quite do that, or you wanted to grow your social media followers, didn't quite make it. Anybody had set goals and didn't quite make it? Right, so what happens is that when we set goals, they tend to be very vague. It's like, I want to save money. What, 2 cents? 5 cents? Like, how much do you want to save? Or you say, I want to lose weight. Well, how much? 1 pound? 10 pounds? So what happens when we set these vague goals, they become very difficult to achieve because there's no other elements, there's no way to measure it, it must be quantifiable, it must have either a percentage or a number to it. You can't say, I want to lose a lot of weight. That just doesn't happen. What is a lot? Is it 5 pounds? So tonight, you're going to learn how to put all of the elements into your goal setting so that at the end, you will definitely achieve your goals. I guarantee you that if you do apply all of the elements in the SMART goal, that every goal that you set, you will hit the mark. And even if you don't hit the mark exactly where it is, you will come very close to it because you have followed the steps to it. Alrighty, so let me get into the presentation. I know the guys have it overhead, but I do have some extra speaking notes, so I want to get to those. Okay, so like I mentioned before, the SMART is specific. It must be very specific. Thank you. Simple, sensible, significant, and M is measurable. How am I going to measure these goals? What benchmarks do I have to put in place so I can measure this? And it must be also achievable. So when you talk about achievable, it's like you're not going to say, I want to lose 100 pounds in 2 weeks. Just not achievable. So it must be realistic, it must be achievable, it must be relevant. And you may say, I want to lose it by next week. Well, it's not going to happen. You're not going to lose 100 pounds in a week. So it needs to be relevant and also need to be timely. And that, next week is that time bound for it. Okay, so a SMART approach eliminates generality, takes away all of that guesswork from it, and it sets a clear timeline and makes it easier to track your progress and to identify missed milestones. So as you go forward, there will be milestones that you will hit. And for each one, we want you to celebrate those because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. Well, I wanted to lose 10 pounds, but I only lost weight. I'm harping on the weight because I'm trying to lose weight. All right, so it's not for anyone else other than myself. And so it makes it easier to track those milestones. So if you didn't hit the 10, but you got 8, still celebrate the 8. You're better than 1 or 2. So when we talk about specific, there's some questions that we must ask ourselves. It must be, so what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? So specifically, say we want to lose weight, the outcome is I want to lose 10 pounds. So that is the outcome. And the who involves who else is part of this. So for example, if you're applying for a job and the who is who else, and you're saying, I want to get that job, well, it's not really up to you because there are other players in it. So you want to consider who else has to be a part of this. So if you say, I want to open a hairdresser store, but you don't know how to style hair, it now depends on another who, someone else. And chances are you may not always make it because it's not 100% dependent on you. It's depending on another person. So you want to be mindful of when you're setting your who else is involved. Make sure that you're the major player in the who. Because if you're not the major player in the who, chances are you may miss the mark. And then the why. So why is this goal important to you and what problem are you solving? So for example, if you say, Carolyn, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to collect stones and sell them. I'm going to have to look at you like you got two heads on your shoulder, because I was like, what problem are you solving with these stones? Like, what is it about stones? Does it improve anything at all? So you want to be very mindful, again, is it solving a problem? So if you say to me, I want to, sell PPE equipment, absolutely, I can understand that. For the environment that we're in, it makes sense to do that. So think about the environment you're in and what problem is it solving when you start planning your SMART goals. So M is for measurable, and quantifying your goals makes it easier to track. And so there's the what and the how. So what is specific about it, and how will you track your progress? So if you say, I want to grow my social media to 100 followers, and you started off today with 10, and next week I say, well, what's the percentage? How have you measured that? So I don't know, I just know that I want to get to 1,000. I have to be able to measure it as you go along. You cannot just get to something without measuring it. You must track it. And we're going to go through some examples later on about, so let's say you work in a department and your goal is to increase, or to be able to increase your budget, the department budget, or something to that effect. How are you going to track that information? So you need a tool to track it. Don't tell me, well, I'll keep it in my head. Doesn't work that way. You've got to put it on paper, and there are many other tools out there that you can use. There's Microsoft Project that can help you to track your progress. There's Teams, there's spreadsheets. Get something. Don't tell me you're going to write it on a piece of paper, because you can't do measurement on a piece of paper. You got to be able to see the graph, how you're achieving those goals. Because if it's just, I have in my paper today 10, and next month 20, and the next week 30, great. But are you able to calculate the percentage to show that your average, or you're trying to reach the goal that you're attaining to? So when we talk of measurable, it must be numerical or percentage. So again, I mentioned earlier, you can't say, well, I want to gain my followers by a lot. It's not relevant, right? So we need to know what that lot is, or by a bunch, or plenty, or a lot. Those words does not mean anything when you're talking about SMART goals. And also, it must be achievable. Is the goal realistic and attainable? Like I said, made some examples earlier, it must be realistic. So you can't say to me, I want to, collect and sell stones. It's just not realistic to me, for me at least, and I'm thinking the general public as well may think the same way too. And it also, is it necessary? So you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to increase your sales, or you want to, whatever your goal is it necessary? Is other people asking for this? If it's a work goal, are they asking for this work goal? Because if it's not necessary, you might just be, spinning your wheels, and you may achieve it for yourself, but it doesn't improve the department. It doesn't improve the overall outcome for the company. And are their objectives challenging yet reachable? So what you don't want to do is set your goal this high so you know for sure you're going to attain it. You want to set it a little bit higher, so you have to work hard for it, but yet it must be reachable. Don't put it so far that you can't reach it. Okay, so for example of something that is achievable, if you say to me, I want to get that promotion. So, but that promotion depends on who else is applying for the position and on the recruiter's decision. So that's kind of out of your control to be able to achieve that goal. But if you say to me, I want to get experience, I want to gain experience and training that I need to be considered for that position, no, that's totally in your hands. So you now have the control of it, and it becomes achievable. And it must also be relevant. Is the goal aligned with your overall objectives? So in life, we all have objectives. So thank you. So it must align with the overall objectives. And does the goal make sense to the current context? And am I the right person to achieve that goal? All of these questions must be considered when you're setting your goals. So it says, keep in mind that it must be applicable in the current socioeconomic environment. And what that actually means is that it refers to the existing social and economic conditions and factors that shape and influence a particular society at a given point in time. So something that might have been relevant a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, may not be relevant now. So you can't say, well, 10 years ago, I know somebody got into this business and they did really well. Great. But that was 10 years ago. It must be relevant for the time that we're in. And I'm going to speed through this really quick because I only have 10 minutes left, and I'm hoping that we can get a little exercise in. So we're going to get into the time bound. It must be timely. The scope defines the boundaries and objectives of the project, while complexity refers to the intricacy and challenges associated with its elements, whether technical, organizational, or interpersonal. And I'm referring to the third point that it says, is the time frame realistically given to the scope and complexity of the goal? And please, I'll have some time later on for some questions, so please feel free to ask questions. So now I want to explain to you what a vague goal is. And we do this often. All of you, not me. Just kidding. We do this. It says, I want to help my department stay on budget this year. And that's your goal. I want to help my department stay on budget. Well, how are you going to do that? Because I'm going to ask you how and how long it's going to take you. And who else has to be a player in this game for you to be able to do that? So a good goal or a smart goal, the element of specific is a part of it, and it says, I will distribute a budget report. It's measurable because it shows our department current expenses and comparison to the allotted annual budget. It's achievable. It highlights area where we are overspending. It's relevant. It's based on our current spending. I will offer suggestions on how to cut expenses so that we are back within budget. And it's time-based. Each month, I'm going to produce this report. So if you see that when we make the difference between the vague goal, I want to help my department stay on budget, and a SMART goal, it has all the elements of SMART in it. So a SMART goal is something measurable and actionable with enough specifics to help you achieve real results. If you're not able to do that, then it's not a SMART goal. So here's another example. So that's the one I just went over with you. So again, when we look at the specifics, the example of a personal goal, it must be specific. So the personal goal is, I want to grow my social media to 1,000 followers. So it's specific. The goal is let me just go back and tell you what the SMART goal would be. Rather than I want to grow my social media to 1,000 followers, the SMART goal would be, I want to increase social media followers by 25% within the next 6 months through target marketing and strategies, engagement initiatives, aiming to reach 1,000 followers by a specific time, so 6 months from now. So you see all of the elements incorporated in there. So if anybody knows me very well, I am very competitive. So I bought some Tim Horton cards because what I'm going to do, I just gave you all of the elements within the SMART goal. I just need 3 people to volunteer and give me your goal, and we're going to try and I want you to take that goal that you had and now make it a SMART goal. Do we have anybody who here likes a challenge? Nobody likes a challenge? Okay, thank you. All right, so tell us what your goal is, and I'm going to give you the mic so you can come here. Thank you. Tell us what your goal is, and then we're going to see how smart your goal is. Okay, so we want you to do a SMART goal.
A SMART goal for my business this month is to deliver 25 cars.
So what is this missing? He wants to deliver 25 cars. What's missing? How? How are you going to do that?
How will I do this? I will do all my follow-ups on my previous customers over the past 2 years, because most likely a lot of people like to get out of their cars within 2 years and up.
What else is missing? Time? A time frame? Time bound? We need a time bound. So Pardon me? Okay, so we got the time. So you said you want to deliver 25 cars in this month. Thank you, Pastor Gary. Is that achievable? How do we know it's achievable?
Because this time of the year, 8, 9, 10 years, we usually get goal, and we usually do the necessary work to attain that.
So he's got track record to prove that it's achievable. How is it measurable? How are we measuring that?
We measure it based on the amount of sales who should be
And is it relevant?
relevant because
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you. All right, anybody else? Really, really quick. Anybody else? If you want to, listen, we're going into a new year. Pastor Gary, you are? What? All right, we're going into a new year. We got to do something different, right? All right, go ahead, Pastor Gary. What's your goal? What? I was getting all excited. Anybody? I got 2 more Tim cards. Anybody really quick? Hands going up. I see it. You're kind of, yeah, come on. Last one, okay. Go ahead. So what's your goal?
Okay, so I want to pay off my credit card debt by the end of.
Okay, that's good. Is it relevant?
It is relevant because I'm in debt.
Okay. Is it achievable?
It is achievable.
How you measuring that? How it's achievable?
I want to put a portion of my paycheck every 2 weeks towards that.
Very good. Here you go. Thank you very much. Can you give her a round of applause? All right. So for next year and going forward, everybody's making really smart goals. We're not making those vague goals anymore that says, I just want to lose some weight. Thank you very much. All right, so we got some questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Carol. Was that a good session? Good one? Okay, so we have a Q&A, so I'm going to bring the mic to you. If you have any question, anybody with any questions? Any questions?
So, just for Matt, how would you use this? Like normally, a lot of time when there's a new year, people have certain goals and so. But normally, as you said, not adding a smart goal to it. So, New Year's is coming up. What would you suggest that, based upon what we're talking about, how we achieve our goal compared to all the other years?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a very good question. We want to get away from, like I said, our vague goal. You know, we say, okay, next year I'm going to go back to school. It's great. It sounds really good. What are you going back to school to do? What course are you going to take? And is the course relevant? And what is it going to help you in where you are now? There's so many questions you need to ask, because if you ask yourself those questions, you may realize that is not what you should be doing. Because we hear other people, I give this example before. My niece, love her very much, but she's always on social media, and she sees everybody who say they made $10,000 in 1 month, $50,000 in another month, selling T-shirts or whatever it is they're doing. And each month she'll call me, Auntie Carol, can you help me? I want to sell T-shirts. And I was like, okay, great. And then the next month she'll come, okay, Auntie Carol, I want to sell hoodies or whatever it is. And every month it's a different, adventure she wants to go on because she's watching people. And I said to her, stop. I says, can you even do this? Do you have the capacity? Is it dependent on you? Do you know how to design? So you want to think about all the elements that's involved in it. So rather than making these vague goals, sit down, go through the SMART, ask yourself those questions, write it down. Do not think it in your head. Write it on paper. And if the SMART goal that you are setting, it does not 100% depend on you, you may want to reconsider it. You must have control of that SMART goal, else you will not hit the mark. So thank you very much, Pastor Derek. Yes, sir. Oh, that's a very good one. Discipline is very, very good.
How do you build discipline?
Yes, it is a very good question. Accountability. So you sit them next beside a beautiful woman. She can be the person who could be the person who you're accountable to. Say, you know what? Whether it's whoever she is, if it's a friend, sister, I don't know who it is, a neighbor, whoever it is that you want to, you say, listen, this is what I want to achieve. I want you to hold me accountable. I want to, whatever the goal is, this is how I'm going to do it. I want to do it in this time frame. I want you to check in on me to ensure that I'm meeting and I'm hitting those goals. Does that answer your question? Find an accountability person, yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually is an awesome question and an awesome answer, and I think that's something that applies to every aspect of our lives. That one of the things that we say we want to do things, but the only person that's holding us accountable is ourselves, and that's a problem. Unless you're even a highly disciplined person, to stay on that discipline, we need someone that we're accountable to. And so I thank you for that question, and thank you for that answer. Thank you. One more question? Hold on. This is the last question.
Okay, SMART goal, right? I want to buy a house, and but I'm not really sure how to navigate through it. Should I maybe meet with a financial person? Who would I sit down to help me to make the, to put a budget together to purchase the house? Because not everybody knows how to do it by themselves, so we need someone to help us.
And thank you very much, a very good question. It's a big purchase. It's a big ticket item when you talk about buying a house. And I might even qualify. Can I even get a loan? Now with the new stress test, you may not even qualify. You may have all the money, but you may not qualify based on the criteria that they have. The best person to speak to is a real estate agent. They know all of the ins and outs of the new stress test that the government has put in place. Speak to them, because like I said, you may have your 20, 30% down, but if you don't pass that stress test, it's a no-go, right? So speak to advisor. You have to first know that you're in the position, you've got a job. So first of all, you want to ensure that you're employed. The bank is not going to be looking at you if you're not employed. They want to see a track record that you have. First of all, your credit score must be good. So banks look at credit score over and above 660, 670 above when you're looking for a mortgage, especially depending on the price of the mortgage. You're looking for a good credit score. They want to know that you have your percentage down. They want to know that you have a job so you can keep up the mortgage payment. And there's a number of things to look at. But so you take care of your part first, ensure that your part is taken care of before you see a real estate agent. The next step is to see a real estate agent, and then they will set you up for the next. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, hands together for Cal. Was that not good? Okay. Well, we want to move right along, and we have, and I will do it right this time. We have Alex Morgan. Alex Morgan is a certified nutritional practitioner with over 10 years of experience offering nutritional consultations and live blood analysis. Alex graduated with honors from the Institute of Holistic Nutrition in Toronto in 2008. In 2018, she became certified in live blood cell analysis to more effectively assess her clients' needs. As a holistic nutritionist, Alex continues to attend trainings and webinars to stay up to date with the latest research and advance in the health field. All of this has equipped her with tools that transformed her life and inspired her to share them with others. I can say that one of the reasons I asked Alex to come tonight is I had heard about live blood cell analysis concerning someone else, and then I was at Healthy Planet, and I saw her card. And I actually recommended, before I ever went to see her, I recommended folks to go see her, and I liked what I heard from those people who went, and I myself have visited with her and sat down, and and she gave us some information, some things that my wife and I have to work on. And so the live blood cell analysis, I recommend if you've never done it, you need to do it. It's very informative. And so without further ado, let's welcome Alex Morgan to the podium.
Thank you so much, Pastor Gary. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you for having me here tonight. So tonight, we are going to talk about dangers of refined sugar. Let me just get this going here. See. Oh. Oh, it's going. Okay, perfect. All right. So yes, we are going to talk about a few things. So effects of sugar on our health and our body, hidden sources of sugar, and also some sugar alternatives and tips. I was going to talk a bit just to introduce myself, but Pastor Gary did an amazing job there. So I'm just going to jump into the effects. There we go. Effects of blood sugar on our health. So I'm sure that you've all heard, and one of the main advice you would hear from your nutritionist, naturopath, or your doctor is to cut down on sugar. Tonight we're going to talk about some specific effects that it has on our body. So the first and the most obvious one is the effect it has on our blood sugar. So we've heard about low blood sugar, high blood sugar, so hypo and hyperglycemia, and also insulin resistance, which leads to prediabetes and diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. So we know when we ingest sugar, it increases blood sugar, right? And then what happens is the body, specifically pancreas, needs to pump insulin to get that sugar into the cell. So insulin works like a key that opens up the cell so that the sugar can go in and the body can use it for energy. If there's too much sugar circulating in the blood and the cells don't need it, it gets stored in the liver as glycogen. And when those stores are full, there's no other option. It gets stored as fat. And if the body is continuously exposed to high sugar in the diet, what happens is insulin is constantly pumping, and there is a term that actually describes it well. At some point, the body or the cells become resistant to insulin. So that is that insulin resistance. So the cells cannot use that sugar for energy anymore. And then we have continuously high blood sugar that leads to that prediabetes or diabetes. The other way that sugar in our diet affects our health is through increasing inflammation, okay? So we can talk about the inflammation in our gut, and especially what it does, it feeds bad bacteria, yeast, parasites, causes a lot of bloating, can cause inflammation and damage to the intestinal lining. I don't know if you guys have heard of a term, leaky gut. It's not really recognized in the mainstream medical system, but what it is from the inflammation and damage, that cell wall in the intestinal lining actually allows bigger molecules of food, let's say fully undigested fats and proteins, to get into the bloodstream. And then what happens is the immune system has to go in there and clean that up. So leaky gut will stress the immune system. And anybody, let's say, with any autoimmune issues, healing the gut would be the main thing to give the immune system a break. Going back to inflammation, but also inflammation in the gut and the way that can affect our mood is the fact that actually, you all have heard of serotonin, right? It's one of the neurotransmitters in the brain, and anybody suffering from anxiety and depression, usually doctors will look at, hey, serotonin levels might be low, they'll prescribe antidepressants, but we also know that the gut actually produces more serotonin than brain. So if there is inflammation, damage, and leaky gut, and an imbalance in our microbiome, that will affect our mood, right? So that's why bringing that inflammation is very important. And then, of course, just that simple fluctuation of the blood sugar, so low and high. I don't know if anybody experiences that, but when your blood sugar goes low, so you get into that hypoglycemia, usually, you can't focus, you get shaky, you feel more anxious. So that's how that blood sugar dysregulation can affect the mood and our energy levels. The other system that is also affected by too much sugar in our diet is cardiovascular system. And I'm sure, again, you guys have heard of triglycerides. So when you do your blood work, we don't want those triglycerides to be high. So in addition to some other things that you can include in your diet, like fish oil, one of the things to keep an eye on is really lowering sugar in the diet, because high sugar in the diet will result as high triglycerides on your blood work. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is also cholesterol, okay? So we all know that, we don't want our cholesterol too high, but at the same time, the body needs cholesterol, right? So it's essential for production on certain hormones, bile that we need to digest our fats, and also some fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D. So we need a healthy amount of cholesterol. And the reason why cholesterol gets that bad rap is because what happens in the arterial walls, they can get damaged from inflammation, right? And we know, again, sugar is one of the drivers of that inflammation. And then what body does, it's like, when you have a scrape, right? The body comes in and tries to heal that scrape. Same thing in the arteries. So one of the things that gets sent in there to patch things up is cholesterol, right? So then obviously concerned about clogged arteries and things like that. But if we're keeping our inflammation down and our sugar intake, then that should not be an issue. And just a side note, for anybody with higher cholesterol, increasing your fiber in the diet, super important, because that helps actually get any excess cholesterol out of the system. The other thing, liver health. Again, you've heard about fatty liver, and a lot of times people will think of fatty liver as, this person is consuming too much alcohol. Certain medications can cause liver enzymes to go up, and also fatty liver. But another thing that people tend to forget about is too much sugar in the diet. Can also be a reason for fatty liver, especially if alcohol is not an issue, there's no medications, and all of a sudden you hear, there's an issue with the liver. And the last thing I wanted to touch upon is the fact that sugar is actually addictive, okay? So it does affect another neurotransmitter in our brain, dopamine. That is our feel-good type of neurotransmitter. So when you're stressed, feeling down, sugar can be that pick-me-up, and that's how it becomes a habit. It becomes addictive. It also plays a role in our reward centers. So it is not always easy to cut it out. So you kind of need to know yourself. Some people are okay to consume it in moderation. Some people need to cut it out completely. It's all or nothing. But then again, gradually, right? Okay, so from here, so these are some sugar names on food labels. And it's a huge list. If actually anybody wanted to get a copy of this presentation, I have a sign-up list in the back, so you can just leave your name, email, and check if you want the presentation. And there's another option to check if you wanted to receive my newsletter. But again, that's optional. So some basic simple sugars you'll see on the label, dextrose, fructose, glucose, things like that. Then we have those solid granulated sugars, just your, simple table sugar, brown sugar. What else do we have here? Even icing sugar, raw sugar, all stuff like that. And then liquid or syrups. So you'll notice, it's hard to see, but I have highlighted a few out of the list, such as cane sugar, coconut sugar, date sugar, blackstrap molasses, honey, maple syrup. And the reason I did that is that these types of sugars are different from these simple sugars because a lot of the other ones are fully processed. So when you ingest them, the body actually has to use its own nutrients, minerals to process them. So you're almost depleting your own stores of nutrients. The highlighted ones, yes, they're still sugars. They will still affect your blood sugar levels, and you want to be mindful how much you consume, especially if you're pre-diabetic and diabetic. But because they're coming from these whole foods, you're getting nutrients from them too. So in that sense, a better option. But again, it's important to be mindful as to how much you consume even of these ones. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about, so when you look at, let's say, the labels, and you'll see things that claim, wow, sugar-free, but you're buying ice cream and cookies, and you know they're going to taste sweet. So the question is, how are they sweet, right? And this is just my personal opinion. When you look at artificial sweeteners, so, aspartame and sucralose, the way I look at them is chemicals that have no business in our body. Yes, they may not affect your blood sugar levels, but what else are they doing, right? Aspartame is a neurotoxin, right? So all the Diet Cokes and stuff like that, no. So try to stay away from these. I know this is gonna sound maybe controversial, but I don't drink Coke. It's bad overall. But if you're gonna have something, have it with just regular, normal sugar. You know you're getting sugar. Stay away from all these diet things and sweeteners. There's, of course, natural sweeteners. And I'm sure you heard stevia, xylitol, erythritol, monk fruit. So stevia is a plant. And I know not everybody loves it. It may have sometimes that bitter aftertaste. You have to go through a few different brands and just find the one that works for you. Monk fruit tends to taste well without any aftertaste, but a lot of times it's mixed with xylitol or erythritol. And these two, again, so they are natural sweeteners, no effect on blood sugar, but I would say even with these ones, in moderation, because sometimes, especially if the body is not used to them, if you have too much, it can cause some digestive distress. Yes, so that would be some of the alternatives. Okay, where did I go? Next one. Okay, all right, so here, I wanted to talk a bit about foods that are really high in sugar that sometimes we may not think about as much. And as I go through this, I'm going to give you some tips how to replace them. So this is kind of going to connect to the next slide. So fruit juices, dried fruit, canned fruits can actually be a lot higher in sugar than eating an actual whole fruit. And you'll notice, let's say with fruit juices, if you look at the label and it says, 100% fruit juice, but then you look at the actual ingredients, they put in concentrated grape juice, which is fine. Sure, it's natural, but that concentrated sugar is still going to give you a lot of sugar in that serving, and even more without any fiber, anything that will slow down that release of glucose into the bloodstream. Dried fruits, obviously, all the water is evaporated, so it's almost like you're getting concentrated sugars. Canned fruits, a lot of times they actually add sugar to it, right, to preserve it. Flavored and fruit yogurts, honestly, a lot of time they have sugar, especially the fat-free ones, because once you take out the fat, to make it taste good, you got to put something else in, and a lot of time it is sugar. So go plain, and then you can add your own fruit to it. And if you wanted to, just drizzle some honey or maple syrup. But at least you know what's going in there, right? The other thing, cereals, granola, right? A lot of times, a lot of stuff in it. If you do shop at health food stores, you may actually find things that are lower in sugar. You can just make your own, you know, oats, nuts and seeds, again, frozen fruit, things like that. Now, when we look at sports nutrition, energy drinks, sports drinks like proteins and protein bars, because these guys know that people who are buying their stuff, they're looking to either, you know, lose weight or build muscle and things like that. So a lot of times they're going to try to avoid adding sugar in it. But what they do is they add artificial sweeteners because they're cheaper, and not everybody who's in, you know, fitness is necessarily paying too much attention to all the ingredients. Of course, there are brands out there that use better options, so it's all about reading the label. You know, when it says sugar-free, like you have to then see, okay, what is it exactly? Muffins, pastries, bread, things like that, Timmy's and Starbucks, that's really hard because to make these things taste really good, there's a lot of, you know, more sugar than you would if you're doing your own baking. And I don't know if you guys bake, but sometimes, you know, let's say you're making chocolate chip cookies that calls for 3 cups of sugar. Honestly, putting just 1 cup, it still tastes good, but you're getting a lot less sugar in there. Flavored coffee and teas, like, you know, when you go and you take that, like a shot of that syrup that they in there, that's just not the best way to go. Again, replacing with stevia or making your own, probably a better option. We talked a bit about low-fat or fat-free foods. Check the label, see what's added in there to enhance the flavor. Of course, alcoholic beverages, so, you know, cocktails, ciders, things like that. They're inherently sweet, and alcohol itself does not help because it is high on the glycemic index, and we'll talk actually about the glycemic index in a bit. And then, you know, your typical salad dressing, sauces, condiments. Keep an eye on that. Maybe make your own salad dressing. And fast foods and restaurant meals, you have no control over that. I know this is not about sugar, but I don't know if you guys notice when you eat out that when you come home, like, you're so thirsty. There's so much sodium in there. Everything is so much more than you would have in your regular meal at home. Okay, so we did talk about this as I was going through. So eat whole fruit instead of fruit juice, get plain yogurt with your own fruit, replace cereal and granola with oats, nuts, seeds, and berries. Try to bake at home. You control what goes in there, make your own lattes. Avoid sugary mixes, like mixed drinks, and make your own salad dressing. But I also wanted to touch upon this, eat whole foods. Because what happens is in our diets, especially with macros such as fiber, protein, and good fats, they actually help slow down the release of sugar or glucose into the bloodstream. So sometimes, you know, around 2 o'clock, when everybody feels tired, you know, it's easy to go for a cookie for a quick pick-me-up, but you're already hungry, and it's really hard to kind of control at that point how much you have. And that's why if you are going to have, let's say, a treat or something sweet, try to save that only after a good, wholesome meal. First, because that macros in that meal are going to stabilize the blood sugar, but also you're going to be pretty full, so the chances of overeating on junk food is going to be less. Oh my. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to talk a bit about glycemic index of foods because foods like, you know, grains, vegetables, fruits, and things like that, they do have their own naturally occurring sugars. And this becomes very important for somebody who's pre-diabetic or diabetic because the glycemic index actually shows how quickly that food turns into sugar in our bloodstream. So when we look at the grains, you'll notice at the bottom, let's say white bread and bagel, it's pretty high on the glycemic index, and that's because there's no fiber in there to help stabilize that sugar release. But if you look at the top Rice Bran or Bran cereal, it's pretty much fiber, right? So that's where you're not going to be seeing the spike in your blood sugar. And an interesting way to, when you look at a label, right? So the nutritional label, you'll see protein, you'll see fats, and then you'll see carbohydrates. So when you look at carbohydrates, they usually split them into two, fiber and actual sugar. And then you kind of figure out, hey, well, how much is sugar in there? So the higher the fiber, the better, and obviously the lower the sugar, the better. Vegetables, especially your greens, you should be eating your greens, are all pretty low on the glycemic index because they're high in fiber. And then you'll notice those starchy vegetables like carrots, they're a bit higher, so 39. Same goes for your squashes and potatoes and things like that. And then fruits, they come with their own natural sugars, so they're going to be higher, but again, much better option than an actual juice because of the fiber content. Dairy, so you'll see ice cream, pretty high, probably, it has sugar added to it as it is, but anything that has, good fats in it is going to help slow that down and keep it at a lower glycemic index. Proteins, this was a vegetarian type of chart, so there's no meat, but we know meat is pretty low on the glycemic index because of the protein content. And then if you look at these guys, so let's say peanuts, they're really high in fat, and protein are going to be lower on the glycemic index compared to some of the beans that are starchy, right? So this is just to kind of keep an eye on the fact, there's plain sugars we know, like, table sugar that we add to our tea and coffee, but there are also sugars in the food. So if managing any condition related to blood sugar dysregulation, this becomes important. Okay, so I wanted now just to take a moment, if I can switch. Okay, there we go. I want just to touch base when it comes to live blood analysis. I am not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but one of the things that I look at is inflammation in the body. So it's actually very simple. First of all, the process. So I take a drop from the finger, we put it on a slide and look at it under the microscope. And I have a screen so you can see what I'm seeing. And so I can see if the inflammation level is high, if there is a lot of yeast and parasites and things like that, that could be affecting your digestive system, especially with people with bloating and low energy levels or sleep issues. The other thing that I can see from live blood is how well the immune system is functioning. So even though this test is not a replacement for blood work you would do at your doctor's, it is complementary because it gives additional information that's not necessarily looked at when it comes to the regular test. So immune activity, we can actually see the white blood cells, whether they're active, whether they're too small, too big, overactive, right? So how they're behaving in the blood. Also stress, so adrenal issues. There are certain things that would show up in the blood plasma that would tell me, okay, even this person may not be feeling necessarily stressed, the body is under stress. And we know also that stress has a lot of different effects on the body. And then obviously circulatory issues, and liver is one of the big ones. So I can see if there's any liver congestion. That does not necessarily mean that anything is wrong with the liver. It just means that it needs some support, and it would be something that I would focus on almost regardless of what the concern is. All right, so I wanted to share some images of live blood analysis. So what you're seeing right now, they're actually red blood cells. So they're little circles and they're supposed to be clear. so nothing inside them. But what we're seeing in this specific image, there are little things inside them, and they indicate actually parasites. But those are what we call environmental parasites. So we all have them, okay? And we get them from, like it says, from the environment. Could be even from, fresh fruits and veggies. If you have pets or you're surrounded with little kids, they're not pathogenic, so they do not cause disease. But they could be affecting, again, as I said, your energy levels, taking some of your nutrients like your B12 and iron and things like that. So if you're seeing a lot of them in the sample, then this is something that we would address. Okay, so the next one, and I can tell that it's a little bit hard to see, but the idea behind this image was actually the plasma that's behind the cells. I don't know if you can notice these little lines, like little spider webs. So that is actually indication of liver congestion. And this is where we would actually work on supporting the liver and circulation overall, because we want these red blood cells to move freely, not to clog up together like this. Oh, okay, there we go. So this image is a bit from a distance right now, and we're seeing a couple of things here. So in the background, these smaller things are actually red blood cells, but they're sticking together, causing chains. So that's a sign of inflammation in the body that we talked about. And interestingly, these bigger crystals are undigested proteins. So that protein leaking into the bloodstream, and we talked about leaky gut. So we know for a person like this, we would have to work on bringing the inflammation down and healing the gut, so that whatever other recommendations work well for them. And the last one here is actually, here you can see red blood cells the way they should look. So they're all separated, looking good, but there are these white dots, especially in that right corner, and that's the indication of yeast. Now, yeast or candida, it is normally, we do have it in our gut, but we don't want it necessarily in the bloodstream. And again, it can cause bloating, that mental fog and fatigue, skin issues, itchiness, and things like that. So that was the quick overview of dangers of sugar and its effect on our bodies, and also live blood analysis. And I wanted to thank you for having me again tonight. And with SMART goals, this could be one of the goals you can set for yourself, to minimize or lower the sugar in your diet. Thank you. Oh, yes. So I actually just wanted to show you this. This is a little bit more information about live blood analysis that's available on that table in the back. If you're interested, you want to just pick this up, that's where my contact information is. And as I said, the sign-up sheet for the presentation is also in the back. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. That was really informative.
Thank you.
Question, sugar. So I know there's the refined white sugar and then there's the brown sugar. Are they still just both bad for you? Does it matter, brown or white?
So good question, because in the end, ultimately, right, they will both affect your blood sugar levels. But the brown sugar, because it has some of the nutrients with it, so it's not completely processed and refined, will give you some of those nutrients. Obviously, there's other ways to get those nutrients in. So if you are kind of faced with choosing between, white and brown sugar, yeah, go with brown, but again, in moderation, and just be aware that it will still affect your blood sugar levels. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
If someone is trying to eliminate sugar out of their diet and stuff, do you recommend that you gradually reduce the amount you're getting, or just all out quit and like go full sugar?
Again, very good question. And that depends on the person, right? So, like with anything that you're trying to quit, you need to know yourself. Are you the person that can say, like, that's it, tomorrow, nothing? Mind you, you have to make a plan. Because here's the thing, there are certain habits on certain ways of eating that we're used to. So if you decide to start tomorrow, you better have a plan. What are you replacing that with? Right? So what's your breakfast going to be? What's your snack going to be so that you're not actually eating sugar? If you can do it, cold turkey, by all means. But if not, if it's really a struggle to the point where you're like, no, I'd rather give up, then do it gradually. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. So I know that there are a lot of sugar in fruits, and we consume a lot of fruits. Is there a particular fruit that we should stay away from to reduce if we had, diabetes issues?
Right, thank you. Yes, so not all fruit is the same. And typically, unfortunately, all the yummy tropical fruits are pretty high in sugar. And here's the thing. So when you look at pineapple, right? Yeah, it's sweet, it's high in sugar, but also has its own benefits, right? It has enzymes that are good for inflammation and things like that. So that goes back to in moderation. There are certain things like berries, generally speaking, because of the amount of antioxidants in them, and we don't tend to overeat them, right? So that would be a better choice. So any berries, green apples and things like that, and tropical fruits in moderation, like you said, specifically with somebody that's dealing with prediabetes or diabetes. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hold on.
On your slide about with artificial sweeteners, I saw at the end like numbers like 200 times,
Yes.
600 times. What is that?
Yes. So that's actually how many times it's sweeter than regular sugar, right? So that's, to me, we look at a chemical that's 700 times sweeter than sugar. So what is that doing actually in the body? It's not natural, and it's hard for the body to process. And even though it is not affecting the blood sugar levels, it's still affecting your taste buds and continuing those cravings in that sense, just from the taste of it.
Are all honeys created equal?
Okay, so no. Okay, I just want to say, even though that was not the question, but I would always get a question about organic honey. And it's really hard to have organic honey because it's like, how do you really control where the bees are going? Like, you have a certain amount of control over it, but like, okay, let's not talk about organic honey, okay? But wildflower honey, for sure. And then I'm sure you also heard about raw honey. So that's where it becomes interesting, because honey that's pasteurized, so all the enzymes and good things are pretty much destroyed. So if you are having honey, choose wildflower and raw, because you're preserving those enzymes and nutrients.
From my research, I know you've done more research, but that when you put chemicals in your body and your body doesn't recognize it as food, its default is to store it as fat.
Right, because it doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't know how to metabolize it. Exactly, that's true.
So in essence, you're doing the sugar-free, but you're putting a chemical that you're supposedly not taking sugar. Your body says, I don't know what this is, so let's store it.
Yeah, let's make some fat, because that's what body does with toxins, right? So it will store toxins in the fat tissue, because then they're out of the circulation and they can't harm you, right? So that's why when people go on a weight loss and lose a lot of weight quickly, they may not feel well, because they're also releasing all those toxins.
So, if I want to continue to eat the sugar, can I exercise and deplete the effects of the sugar?
I wish it worked like that.
You asked that question on purpose,
Well,
didn't you?
but it's a great question, because that's the thing. A lot of people think, that's the whole idea. Calories in, calories out. So, okay, if I have this many calories, doesn't matter what it comes from. If I can burn it, I'll be good, right? But remember, what sugar does, one of the things it does, it messes with your insulin. And insulin is a storage hormone. So if you're having a lot of sugar and your insulin is pumping, that insulin is telling the body, store the fat and store it in your belly area, right? So you can exercise, till you drop, but it's not going to change, what the body does with that sugar. So your best bet, whole foods, wholesome meals. You need to treat here and there, or if you feel like you can have a little bit, cut it out completely. And it gets easier. It gets easier. When you cut it out and the body kind of gets out of that phase where it really craves it, you're good. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Said something right about exercise. For belly fat, can you get rid of it other than exercise? I mean, I don't mind exercising, but what can I take that will melt it away?
Oh, so we're looking for a magic pill.
What can we do plus
Okay.
exercise?
Okay, and it's true, and that's the whole thing. You cannot, what do they call it? Spot train, or choose a specific area. You can do your sit-ups again till you drop, but sure, you're going to have nice muscles, but it's going to be under the fat, right? And there are a few reasons why people will store belly fat. So we talked about sugar and insulin as one. The other one is high cortisol. So if you're under stress and our cortisol is consistently high, that's one of the results, and especially also with women, hormonal imbalances. So with, especially as we're getting into perimenopause, menopause, estrogen is dropping, and as estrogen is dropping, because estrogen has so many functions in the body, it makes the body and cells more susceptible to that insulin resistance. So we're going back into that whole cycle. So yes, the exercise is not the only thing. It is almost more important what you eat to get rid of the belly fat. So sleep, rest, and eating a whole food diet.
Anyone else? And as I said, get your email, put your email on the list because it was quite interesting that of the glycemic index. Mm-hmm. And, thank God I cut out white bread.
There you go.
It's at 100.
That's right.
And so please remember to put your email address and write it legibly so that you could get this slide, because I think that glycemic index is very important to see how much sugar you're putting in and how it's affecting your body. And also, to Petra's question, one of the things I've done, that I've done in cutting sugar out is eating on purpose, eating your foods on purpose, and eating the foods on like I didn't know I was doing it, but I'm eating a lot of the foods on the low glycemic index, and looking at those. Even though they are sweeteners, they're more complex, like the raw honey, like the cane sugar, like the coconut sugar, and the molasses, and the maple syrup. Those sugars, yes, they may increase your sugar levels, but you're getting a lot of nutrients and not getting the empty calories from the refined or simple sugars that you're getting. And also, God is awesome that even with the fruits, the good thing about even with the fruits and even like the pineapple, they have enzymes. And so God made it that if you eat food that's not touched by processing, God already made it such a way that it came with stuff to help you digest it. So he didn't just leave it. So understand, the eat foods that is touched by man's or woman's hands as less as possible. Because the more they're touched, the more processed they are, the more your body says, I don't know what in the world, you're eating it, all right, but I don't know what it is, all those cheesies and
exactly.
or whatever. I don't know what that is. And so, again, Alex, thank you so much. Let's put our
Thank you.
hands together.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining. Was that not informative? Thank you so much. Okay, so last but not least, we're not, because of the time that we started, and we want to get you out here at a good time. We're not taking a break, but again, the washrooms, I just came from the States, so I almost said restrooms, but the washrooms, for the male is just outside to your left, and for the ladies, just around the corner. And there are some refreshments outside, so if you have not had any, you can just grab some and come right back inside. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. I've known him for a number of years and for quite a long time. And so Earl Grant has been a successful business owner of a multi-million-dollar used car dealership, which is City Auto Sales, for over 20 years in Toronto. So how many of you know that they said if you have a business that can last over 5 years, you're pretty much on your way, because most businesses fail within the first 5 years. But he's been in business for over 20 years, and he's run a very successful used car dealership, and he is excellent in business. He's got a bountiful storehouse of knowledge. And so without further ado, I'm not going to take much time. Let him speak for himself. Earl Grant, put your hands together and welcome him as he comes.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm Earl Grant, City Automotive Sales and Leasing. Special welcome to everyone. I consider this to be a privilege to be in your presence to discuss the characteristics of operating a successful business in a competitive environment. Before I get into this, I just want to ask one question. What's God's business? Because God has a business also. And God's business was to give us everlasting life. And the meaning of life is he wants us to have life, remain alive, live forever, continue in life, give life, overcome sickness, death, oppression, and depression. That's God's business for us. And the business that we have, we use our business to glorify God. So I thank you all for this opportunity to speak to you about not just our business, and I say our business, it belongs to my wife and myself and all those who work with us. The characteristics of operating a successful business is a competitive environment. So let us consider the meaning of characteristics. It is a distinguished trait or trait, quality or property one need to run a successful business. An entrepreneur planning on being involved in any business endeavor should formulate and implement a business plan that will generate long-term growth and success. All business plans focus on identifying business goals and what you hope to achieve. It also defines the company mission statement, which covers customer service, products delivery, inventory management, sales, and profit margins. There's 5 characteristics that I'll be speaking to you on tonight. The first one is conduct extensive market research, developing marketing plans that will provide information and details on its target market, their buying preferences and income, and awareness of other companies providing similar service and how to address competition, market research to facilitate pricing, develop market materials, direct mails, business card, advertising, promotional flyers, brochures for distribution, develop a website, and establish a social media process. But most of all is referrals. Referrals really, really makes a big difference. Because I will say 90% of my business is based upon referrals. Over the 22 years we've been in business, our customers keep coming back. My first characteristic will be conduct extensive market research and develop marketing plans that will provide information and details on its target market, their buying, and it means customers' target market, their buying preferences and income, and awareness of other companies providing similar service, and how to address competitions. Marketing research to facilitate pricing. Oh, sorry, I think I've been through this before. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Number 2 is financial management. Financial management is a vital part of the business plan that provides a foundation for all linkages with financial institutions. Developing operational budgets, accurately tracking revenues and all expenditures with the preparation and documentation of quarterly and annual financial reports. Number 3, personnel management. Set a guideline for recruitment and training of sales staff, inventory maintenance, and vehicle delivery, accounting, and customer service. It also addresses employees' compensation packages, staff meeting, one-on-one meeting, annual reviews, and tracking team performance and progress, annual bonuses, and excellent packages for health benefits. Number 4 is organizational management. In a business plan, develop a strong management team comprising department heads and owner-operator. It provides A, continual review of operational tasks. B, a design tool for implement and managing inventory. It provides for accurate tracking of business growth, market trend, new vehicle products, and consumer spending. And 5 on my list is decision making. Decision making is responsible for integrating the concept of the business plan into operation so as to generate worthwhile success. Decisions are made with data supplies through the analyzing business strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats to a business. Business owners can get bogged down with day-to-day operations and lose the overall vision of their business and miss a vital business opportunity for profit and struggle at being innovative. And this is the experience of about 99% of business owners or entrepreneurs. Decision made from implementing a business model canvas provide an overall vision of the entire business operation and result in clearer business decision, fewer mistakes, and easier operation process. Now, this is based on a 9 key principle. And that 9 key principle, which is called a business model canvas, which is placed on a, well, really, it's called a business model canvas, which most business will display in their place of business. The canvas consists of customer segment, which is 1, value propositions, channels of distributions, customer relationships, revenue streams, key resources, key activities, key partners, and cost structure. A visual representation of 9 key building blocks that forms the foundation of each successful business operation. Each building block is put on a blank canvas filled with each concept as it relates to our business or your business, and it's placed where visible to everyone. And it's displayed on the screen right now. Number 1 on the business canvas is customer segment, which dictates who are your customers. Number 2, value proposition. What is the value you deliver to your customer? What is the customer need that your value proposition addresses? 3, channel. How do your customer segment want you to be reached? And 4, customer relationship. What relationship does each customer segment expect you to establish and maintain? Number 5 is key resources. What are the resources you need to deliver your value proposition? Number 6 would be revenue streams. How do customers reward you for the value you provide to them? Number 7 is key activities. What are the activities you perform every day to deliver your value proposition? Number 8, key partners. Who are your key partners? And number 9, cost structure. What are the important costs you make to deliver the value proposition? This blueprint will help business owners to invent, design, and build models with a more systematic approach. It simplifies and enable individual to conduct high-level analysis without getting lost in the detail. And that ends the 5 characteristics of operating a small business. Now, is there any questions pertaining to these characteristics? And I'll go them over again one more time. Customer segment, that's number 1. Who are your customers? Who are you targeting? Where do you start targeting? More like, if you do establish a business, the first place to start, the first place you start targeting is your family, then your friends. And then you go out in your community advertising, social media, however, flyers, brochures, and everything else to bring business into your place? And three, how do your customers segment want to be reached? How do you think your customer want you to communicate with them? Do you want to communicate, would they want you to communicate by telephone or by emails? You have to know that. And number four, what relationship does each customer segment expect you to establish and maintain? That's a part of customer relationships also. And we find a lot of this in our business also, that some customers, upon taking delivery of their product, their cars, they want to be a part of us. It's like the dealership goes with the car, or I goes with the car. The least problems I'm called about that car, whether it's a day after, a year after, 2 years after. Customers are like this. They like this one-on-one personal communication. We go to number 5. Key resources. What are the resources you need to deliver your values proposition? My resources are, and I'm sure a lot of you would like to hear what my resources are. My resources are, 1, what I get to realize is that we're selling used cars, but when a customer purchases a used car or a used vehicle, to them it's a brand new vehicle. So we endeavor to make that used automobile looks like a new one. So one of the resources that we put into making that look new is we have shops that do a perfect detailing on this vehicle. For example, your average vehicle, we just make the paint looks new with the proper tools and equipment. Interior, we make interior looks new with the proper tools and equipment. We also guarantee that vehicle will remain in a certain condition for a certain amount of time, especially the exterior of that vehicle. For what we did with the paint work and so on, we guarantee that paint will look in a very much perfect, I shouldn't say perfect, more likely in good condition over a period of time. And where was I in my key resources, Pastor Gary? 7? 5? And number 6? 5 was, okay, I think number 6 is what are the resources you need to deliver your value proposition? Okay, let's go to number 7. What are the activities you perform every day to deliver your value proposition? Seems like the same one I just spoke about in number 7. So we go to number 8. Who are your key partners? Our key partners are our employees. Our employees are treated as part owners. Our employees don't need to ask for something. We see that they need what is needed before they ask. For example, we had a new employee. When did you started with us, Bobby? In the congregation right now that started with us January of this year? And surprisingly, Bobby had 3 raises since this year without asking. So we value his performance. His performance is amazing, so we don't wait for him to ask. And number 9 on my list is cost structure. What are the important costs you make to deliver the value proposition. I did speak about that in one of the key numbers before. So that's about my presentation pertaining to owning and operating a small business in a very competitive environment. Carol, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Earlier in your presentation, you referred to some characteristics, and I'm wondering if we were to rank those characteristics, what would be the top tier 3?
Rank the characteristics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if we had to, if we couldn't do all of them, if what the top 2, top 3 would be?
The top number 1 is, who are your customers? Every business is a business because they've got customers. So we have to know who we should prospect for customers, where to start seeking for customers. When I first started my business, I started with seeking for customers. I spoke to the closest people to me, to myself, pertaining my business, what I was doing, and asked them for their support and their blessing. As a matter of fact, ask for them. I always ask for the business. Okay.
Thank you.
This is more of a personal question for you. How did you deal with no?
Very good question. I never heard it.
Wow.
I never heard it because we were trained not to hear negative comment. What we do most likely with no, we ask question like, when will you be ready?
Okay.
Can I call you around this time when you'll be ready? So I take that information and I put it in my day timer, and that customer or client is followed up just around 3 days before that date of time that I know that they told me they will be ready for their new vehicle.
Any other questions? I thought that was a very good question, a very good response.
I really like what you said about that no. You know what? I don't hear that no. I love that. I love that.
Well, we're trained to disregard no, I don't know when, I'm not sure. You know, in sales, there's a thing about sales where, and this doesn't sound that great, you know, you discount a lot of stuff that people say to you because buyers really, they're looking for someone to tell them what to do. So when you meet, greet, you do your presentation, we counsel, and counseling is amazing. People just enjoy being counseled because most people, honestly, they don't know what they want. You have to tell them what's good for them. So what you do, you qualify, like, you know, who will be driving this car, how many people in your family, and from them answering that question, we could say, well, your family consists of 5 people. We don't think an Honda Civic would be the proper car because the suspension won't accommodate 5 people. I think you should go to an SUV or whatever else it may be. But one thing we usually say, buyers are liars. Because they will leave your place
Yeah.
with an intent and go someplace else, and that intent was to spend 15 grand, and they go someplace else and spend 40 grand. I've experienced it so many times. But the reason why that happened is most of the time we never gave enough information. Now, we don't really honestly sell cars as to what, you know, you're in to buy a car, so here's this car, here's that car, which one do you like? It's not done that way. What we do, we sell last, qualify first, to see if this individual is qualified for the vehicle that they want to purchase. A lot of times, most people are not. But people are very much impressed when we ask them, listen, let's get a pre-approval. Forget about deposit and buying and everything else. Let's do a pre-approval. Can I have some information off you to pull your credit report and give you a report on what your spending power and ability is? Now, once that is done, then we can structure a purchase. But a lot of times when that's done, when after that is done and you looked at it, you really have to say to this customer, listen, I'm not judging you nor am I qualifying you. Let's talk about this paper. This paper is not that great. It needs to be fixed. You can fix this in 2 months and you won't fall into a category where your purchase goes to a B bank or a C bank, because really your credit report is not all that bad. You just need to pay some attention. And you can, once you pay, give it this tender love and care, this TLC, by reconciling everything within a couple of months. And believe me, a lot of people don't know this, but you can fix bad credit in 2 months, 3 months, and you have perfect credit again. Because credit is strength, it's power. This country will live first, pay after. You know, because of this, a lot of people live to the fullest, including myself. You know, but if people understand this, and if people realize that credit needs to be attended to, pay attention to, then you'd be surprised to know the things and the ability that you've got, the spending power that you have to do a lot. We're all Trumps. The only difference between Trump and some of us is that some of us have bad credit, and it doesn't work in our society. So what we do at our dealership, we have people starting next month on board, where if we pull a credit bureau and it's not in good standing, we will have that individual have a conversation with our credit expert, and our credit expert will take off all those stuff and get you a loan with a finance company. And with this loan on your credit, after we remove all the bad stuff, then your credit will start to escalate. Now, what we experienced for the past year or two is a lot of newcomers came into this country, established credit with $300, $500, 8-9 months after, they can walk into a car dealership and spend 30 grand. Amazing. Having a trade line like an auto purchase on your credit bureau makes a big difference. So when people comes in and they want to spend 15 grand cash, 20 grand cash, you know, back again to counseling, $15,000 cash is 30 payments if you finance your car. But again, let's just pull your credit and see what it's like. You could use that, if your credit is not in good standing, you could use that $15,000 to reestablish yourself into our society. And guess what? I'm prophesying now. Next year this time, the houses that you're seeing for $1 million, you'll be buying them for $700,000. And that will be a fact, because our society, we will not allow poverty to enroot itself into our society. Not when we have ministry like this ministry. You know, it will not happen. So I would advise everybody to get themselves ready because there will be a big gravy train coming in a year or two for all of us. Any other questions?
Yeah, Earl? Here. You said, like, for example, when someone comes to you and you notice on their credit sheet that there's areas that need to be fixed,
Yeah.
right? And you know that at that moment they couldn't purchase a car from you. Do you have strategic affiliation with anyone in that realm to help them to streamline your process?
Yes, very good question. Yes, we do. We have someone on board that will assess that credit bureau, gives you the necessary information, but to reconcile a credit bureau always costs money. What we get to experience is that people with bad credit, they don't seem to realize that they need to get out of it. So a lot of people, you have to make phone calls. When are you coming to do this? When are you coming to get your credit reconciled? When that is done, and like I say, if there's, let's say for example, if there's a collection on your credit bureau, let's say there's $10,000 in collection on your credit bureau. You can clear that up with $3,500. Once you cleared it up, pay that 4 or 5 collectors, 1,000 each, 25% of what the total amount is. So $10,000 would work out to be $2,500. You pay $2,500. You have all your receipts. You can have that off in 2 months. On all the inquiries, and you look at some people credit bureau, and at times you'll see like 200 inquiries. Yeah, hard hits. Those hard hits can, and you lost points for those. But again, people always ask points. What's my credit score? What's my credit score? It's not all that important. It's how you handle your trade line that is important. How you handle your trade line is, for example, are you paying? Because on your credit bureau, you can see 30, 60, 90. How many times they're late 30? How many times they're late 60? How many times they're late 90? And if you're late, if you've gone into 60, 90, then that's not a good sign. But also, when people do wake up that have these problems and they wake up and realize that, oh my God, you know, Earl could have gotten us an unsecured loan for $55,000 and we blew it. It cannot be done. Then they realize that, you know, something, we got to get this straight now. Because there's people out there that will give you up to $55,000 unsecured. No, zero security. And in a time like now,
Don't tease people, Earl. Don't tease people.
and in a time like now, and with all the internet, this and that and everything else, you know how much money you could use 55 grand to make? Like, right now, there's a new venture similar to Uber where you buy a car, put it on this rental company, they take care of the insurance, all you do is repair your car, keep it in good condition, and a car that you're paying $400 or $500 a month for can make you $700 a month. 7 12 is 84. That's $9,000 per year. You do that for 5 years, that's $45,000. But a lot of people don't know these things. Let me just say another thing. All that we all need to live a prosperous and successful life is right in this room right now. Every single thing. The problem with most church people, and I hate saying this, you know, the problem with us is that we think, well, if I give Earl my information, it's not a good idea. I don't want Earl to know my business, and I'm not thinking about your business. I'm thinking about selling my cars, paying my bills, you know, and if they had came to us in the first place, man, a lot of people struggle and suffer because they don't seem to realize that a business is a hub. You know, like we just don't sell cars. We have just about anything and everything you can ever think of. Ask Bobby. We had a customer came in, couldn't buy a biscuit. He's working his wife they just got a car from Honda for $55,000 because salespeople are good. We are amazingly good. Sometimes we can make you buy what you don't really need, never mind want, what you don't need. And we had to counsel this individual totally all over again and says, listen, you got a house, let's get you a mortgage, you pay off everybody, and you don't have to worry about this $950 per month anymore because the amortization on your house, which is 20 years, will eat up the payment and lower the $900 a month payment down to maybe $250, and that's how you will solve this problem. And guess what? Don't worry about a job nor all of these things because we've got mortgage brokers who use their own money. That's how much, there's so much money around, it's unbelievable. They use their own money to finance you as long as you have a job. That's all they care about. You have an income. All this, how many years on the job, if you did your taxes and so on, they don't really care about that. Because there's so much money out there, it's unbelievable.
Any other questions before? Okay.
So, don't forget, everything that you're in need of is in your midst. It's just like how God made us. Everything that we will ever need is inside of us. We just need the knowledge to get it out. And at the same, but we can't do it all by ourselves. We all need help. Because how do I stay in business for 22 years? I never did this all by myself.
Oh, a question before we close tonight. You've been in business for now 22 years. What is the best thing you've done in order to stay in business, and what is the worst thing that could be done so that you don't stay in business?
That's a very good question there, Pastor Gary. The best thing I've ever done to stay in business is I answered every phone calls. I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. No, let me tell you something. You've got ladies that stuck on the highway 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and they know no other number except City Automotive Sales. My phone ring, I answered it. The call states on the call, it's, what do you call these crank calls? Scam calls or whatever. So I answered a scam call. And when I answered the scam call, the person said, this is so-and-so and so from the Royal Bank. And this happens maybe 12, 15 years ago. Because we were running our business from our own pocket. You know, we never had any big credit lines or anything like this. So I answered this spam call. And the person says, this is Kashif from the Royal Bank, And I says, well, okay, all right, well, let's make an appointment for you to come in and see us. So he came in and saw us, had a conversation with us, and asked for a financial statement. So we got it within a day or two, gave it to him, and his eyes popped. Popped. He couldn't believe the sales, the amount of business go in and out of our place. And within 2-3 weeks, we had a big line of credit from a spam call. From a spam call. So I always say to myself, if somebody called you and it's not a call that you want, just be nice about it. Sorry, you've got the wrong number. You know, this is a car dealership. You've got the wrong number, that's it. But I take every call. That's one of the best thing I've ever done to my business. And the next one is
What's the worst thing that could have been,
the worst thing I've ever did was to hire or employed or broker with people that were amazingly dishonest. And we got cheated out of a lot of money, but we still stand on the word of God and we use our business to glorify God. So if they stole $1, $10, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, God is our supplier. He will supply our needs. So we don't really worry about it. We just move on. We never roll over and play dead, but we give them a chance, these other people, chances to reconcile. And they never reconciled. So they have to deal with Satan, not God. And Satan is a giver, and he's a taker.
Thank you so much, Earl. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You see why Earl and I have been friends for over 20-something years? Thank you again for coming out tonight. I hope tonight was very informative, and I hope that you're glad that you came again. Please go to the table at the back. There are some little postcards with Alex Morgan information. She'll also, Alex, maybe you want to go back to the table, and you can, if you didn't, there were some questions you want to ask her that you didn't feel comfortable asking, but you want to speak to her personally, she will be at the table at the back. Please remember to put your name and your email address so that you can get her presentation. And also, if you registered for this seminar, we have your email, and so we will send you the presentation from Carol and from Earl as well, so that you could go over it. If you're here tonight and you didn't register, please, there's a form on the back with the names of the individuals that did register. Please put your name and your email address on that registration form so that we can get that information to you. There's also, I believe we still have some refreshments outside. Please take that some refreshments. Thank you again. And I want you to know that I realized I didn't introduce myself. At the beginning, I'm Gary Hibbert. I'm the pastor of Faith is Our Victory Now Ministries. And one of the things we do, we have these seminars each year because, as I said, God said, I desire that you prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. So we seek to address all the aspects of life. In February, we're having a marriage seminar for the married couples. Then we have a seminar for men, dealing with issues that men face. And then in June, we have a women's seminar that will address issues of women. Then in August, we have a successful parenting to address the issues that help us to be successful parents. Then we'll have a single seminar in October. And then we have this health wealth seminar because we believe that God wants you to be complete in every aspect of your life so that you can, Jesus said, I've come that you may have life and that more abundantly. So we want you to live an abundant life, a successful life. That's what God wants for us. And so we have these seminars besides our Sunday morning services to help you to be a whole, complete person. And so you go to our website, you will see the upcoming seminars for the new year, and we're here on Sunday mornings to bring you words of understanding of God's blessing in your life. So thank you again for coming, and let other people know about what you learned today. Be blessed, and have a wonderful evening.